What's up, fellas? Welcome back. My name is Tucker. Tomorrow night is the start of the 2021 NBA Finals. It's been a very weird journey to get here, but we've got Suns, we've got Bucks. In this video, I'm going to be talking about every storyline, every headline, everything we need to pay attention to on the basketball court as well, everything you need to know about the 2021 NBA Finals, predictions, previews, all that good stuff. That's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. Let's go and get started. Okay, first up, it's the biggest headline of the finals. Anytime you have a guy that's a back-to-back MVP that we don't know if he's going to play or not, Giannis's health is going to be at the forefront of these NBA finals. Is he going to play? If he does play, how effective will he be? And unfortunately, we don't have a ton of answers to those questions as of the recording of this video. The team officially says right now that Giannis is day-to-day. There was some indications that if there was potential Game 7 against the Hawks, that Giannis could have played in Game 7. I have no idea. I'm by no means a doctor. I have no idea if Giannis is going to play or not. But what I will say is, obviously, the Bucks have a much better chance in the series if Giannis plays. I personally, we'll get to this in the prediction section, I think the Suns are better regardless. But obviously, the Bucks have a much better chance if Giannis does end up playing, because one of the biggest issues that the Suns have is defensively dealing with a team that has a lot of size, and Giannis adds a ton of size to this Bucks team. But that's the first and foremost thing we have to pay attention to is Giannis going to play? How effective is he going to be? And when, at whatever point in the series, he could possibly play. But let's get to the actual basketball stuff, right? Chris Paul versus Jrue Holiday, and the fact that the Bucks could have, by all reports, had Chris Paul, but they chose to go with Jrue Holiday instead. Last offseason, when Chris Paul was looking for somewhere to go, he was interested in going to Milwaukee. He wants to win a title. He understands that they have the ability to do that. He ends up going to Phoenix, mostly because Milwaukee looked at the situation and for a couple of different reasons decided to go in a different direction. One, and I think honestly this is the primary one, I don't think it has anything to do with Chris Paul as a basketball player, but I think primarily they were worried about the personality that Chris Paul would bring to the team, because Giannis hadn't signed the Supermax yet. And if you're just in a vacuum looking at this saying, who would I rather bring in to make sure that Giannis signs a Supermax to make sure that he's happy? I'm bringing in Jrue Holiday. I'm not bringing in Chris Paul. No disrespect to Chris Paul, but as effective as his style can be, it can also be a little bit aggressive, and I'm not risking Giannis potentially leaving in free agency because I traded for Chris Paul. They go with Jrue Holiday, and those two guys are going to match up a lot in this series. It's going to be interesting to see the impact that those two guys have on their respective teams. Holiday has been really good for Milwaukee all year, had some rough moments offensively in the postseason, and we know what Chris Paul has done. So we'll have to keep an eye on how those two guys look. And once this series is over, if that ends up being arguably the biggest difference maker, it's going to be a huge regret for Milwaukee not bringing in Chris Paul. Next up, matchups. Where does PJ Tucker go? Who does PJ Tucker guard? Is he someone that they try and use as a primary defender? Is he someone that they try and just, put on Mikal Bridges or something, who's grown as an offensive player, but obviously isn't the same kind of on-ball threat that someone like Devin Booker or Chris Paul is? My expectation would be that PJ Tucker will be in some kind of rotation guarding Devin Booker and Chris Paul. The Bucks have a lot of guys they can throw at those two players in the backcourt, whether it be Khris Middleton, whether it be Jrue Holiday, whether it be PJ Tucker, a handful of other guys. PJ Tucker will kind of be in that rotation. And the other question would be primarily, especially in the beginning of games, does Jrue Holiday guard Devin Booker or does he guard Chris Paul? I don't really know the answer to that question. He guards either of them well. Of course, it's Jrue Holiday's a really good defender. But the question is, when you've got either PJ Tucker or Khris Middleton as the other guy, you probably want Jrue Holiday to guard Chris Paul, right? And then we'll kind of see what happens with Devin Booker. But there's a lot of interesting matchup things, not the least of which is, let's assume Giannis plays either at the beginning of this series or at some point during it. Who's the Giannis matchup? My guess would be that we will see some DeAndre Ayton on Giannis. He's been a very good defender in the postseason, but the Suns also want to make sure that he doesn't get into foul trouble because they don't really have a backup plan. If he does get into foul trouble, they don't really have a true backup five, and someone has to guard Brook Lopez in those starting units. So my guess would be that they're going to try and do some Jay Crowder on Giannis, some Mikal Bridges on Giannis, and hope that the strength of Crowder and the intelligence he has as a defender, and ability to get in the way defensively, is enough to where Ayton he's 100% going to guard Giannis at times, but hopefully he doesn't have to do it a ton, so that one, he can guard Lopez, they don't get destroyed on the offensive glass, and two, he doesn't potentially get into foul trouble. But if Crowder or Bridges can't hold their own against Giannis, and I wouldn't be surprised if they can, again, assuming Giannis plays, then I could see Ayton sliding over to that spot, and they just try and hold their own on the defensive glass with Lopez crashing and figure it out from there. And then once Giannis goes to the 5 spot, with some of those bench lineups that we've seen, it's obviously a different story where Ayton can guard Giannis a little bit more easily from a schematic standpoint. But again, that all depends on Giannis playing. I can't remember a single time ever in the playoffs where there was a possibility of a team's best player playing, but we had no idea if he actually was. Completely up in the air. It's a really strange scenario. Another defensive thing here is something the Bucks are famous for. It's the way they guard pick and rolls. It's this drop coverage, right? This year more than ever, they've gone more to switching. They've gone more to different defensive tactics, but still the primary tool that they use to defend pick and rolls is drop coverage, especially with Brook Lopez on the floor. He's going to drop all the way to the paint. He's going to give up a lot of mid-range jumpers. They don't want threes. They don't want guys attacking all the way to the rim, and Chris Paul and Devin Booker are going to eat that up, quite frankly. If the Bucks come out in game one and they have Brook Lopez starting the game and they're doing drop coverage, they might not make every shot. The game might be relatively close initially, but they're going to give up a good shot every single time down the floor if Devin Booker or Chris Paul is on the floor, and that is their defense. So I would expect them to change some things up. That's still going to be their primary method of attack defensively. It's what they're most comfortable with. We'll see some more switching. We'll see maybe even a little bit of trapping out of them as well. But if they just stick with that, they're going to get absolutely destroyed. They're not going to be able to guard, and that would be a huge, huge concern for me if I was a Bucks fan, understanding that the way that they prefer to guard is probably the worst possible way to guard the Suns, at least specifically in some of those ball screen actions. So again, something to keep an eye on. An offensive thing here from Milwaukee. They're actually shooting the lowest three-point percentage in the postseason of any would-be champion since the 2003 Detroit Pistons, which were by no means, marksmen from downtown, right? They haven't won the title yet, but if they were to win the title, their 31% three-point shooting percentage throughout the entirety of the postseason would be the lowest by a champion since the Pistons in the early 2000s. That's kind of crazy because Milwaukee has been an efficient, high-volume three-point shooting team for a couple of years now, but in the postseason, those shots haven't been falling. The Nets series specifically, I'm sure, has a large part to do with those numbers. They did not shoot the ball well at all, with the exception of like 2 of those games. Giannis was like 2 for 25 or something ridiculous from 3 in that series. That's certainly bringing those numbers down, but it speaks to the fact that the Bucks can really defend. They found other ways to score and transition on the offensive glass. And it also speaks to the potential this group does still have in the finals to be really, really good if they can start knocking down some of these shots. Because in the Nets series specifically, I can vouch. It's not that they weren't getting open ones. They were just missing them. Guys like Jrue Holiday missing open jump shots. PJ Tucker was so exhausted from guarding Kevin Durant that he was missing open corner threes that he typically would hit, at least half over 40% of. So that's something to keep an eye on for Milwaukee. Again, I generally think that the Suns are the better team here. But if Milwaukee starts hitting jump shots and Giannis comes back, they absolutely have every chance to win this title. And the last point before I get to my actual physical prediction here, let's agree right now, whoever wins the title, give them credit. Have there been injuries? Yes. Does that happen every year? Yes. Are there more this year than arguably ever in NBA history? Yes. But these are the two teams that played the basketball team that was in front of them and won every single series to this point. Whoever wins the title, I don't care that the Suns didn't have to face Anthony Davis. I don't care that the Bucks didn't have to face the Nets at full strength and Trae Young missed 2 games. I don't care. This is the NBA Finals. If you care about the sport, if you care about basketball at all, you'll care about the result of this series and giving credit and respect to the team that ends up winning it, rather than trying to take it away from them because they happen to play a team that was hurt. We all cool on that? Okay. Prediction time. As I said in the beginning, I think Phoenix, once we got to the conference finals and the Clippers were a little beat up and it was Hawks-Bucks, I thought Phoenix was the best team left in the postseason. And the biggest threat for them was getting past the Lakers in the first round, but then also that Utah matchup could be kind of scary for them with the size that Gobert brings and just not having a backup center. That could have been a problem for them. But once they got past the Lakers, again, with the injury to Anthony Davis, you could certainly make the argument that the Suns would have had to win a Game 7 at home in order to move past that Lakers team. But, I mean, it's a very, very good Lakers team. They were able to do it, and now they're in the finals. And I just think that the way they can attack the Bucks in ball screens, and if Giannis, let's just say Giannis plays in Game 3, okay? If Giannis doesn't play every game in this series, they're losing the games that he doesn't play, in my opinion. Specifically because defensively, the Bucks don't really have an answer in terms of how to guard, because if Brook Lopez is out there and they're putting Brook Lopez in ball screens, it's going to be drop coverage, and Devin Booker and Chris Paul are going to destroy that. The counter to that for Milwaukee has been to run Giannis at the 5 and switch up some of their defensive stuff. They can't do that if Giannis isn't playing. You can throw Bobby Portis out there, but it's quite obviously not the same. Without Giannis out there, I mean, I think Phoenix is better than them even if Giannis is playing. I think they are deeper. They are more versatile. They're a better shooting team in the postseason at this point. And I mean, Khris Middleton's been really good down the stretch of these games, but I trust Chris Paul and Devin Booker both more down the stretch of these games than anybody that Milwaukee has. And that's always been kind of the rub on this team, with or without Giannis, has been their ability to execute late in games. And I trust the Suns way, way more than that. Having said that, I do expect it to be a competitive series because I think at some point we're going to see Giannis play Game 3, Game 4, whatever the case may be. I'd be shocked if we go the entire postseason, or excuse me, the entire finals with Giannis finally making it to the finals and him not touch the floor. I'd be very, very surprised. However, I question their ability to win any games without him out there, and their ability to, or his ability to come back and play, obviously anything close to what he would when he was fully healthy, or just play well at all. Those are huge, huge concerns for me. It sucks that that's the way that it is. It would be way more fun to predict and preview this series if Giannis was fully healthy, but he's not. We get to deal with the facts that are in front of us, and unfortunately those facts are Giannis is hurt. I think the Suns are better. I'm going to go Suns in 6. I think Giannis comes back at some point and they win a few games, but I'm going to go Suns in 6. They're your NBA title winners for this season, which would be crazy. I'll be honest. Personally, I'm rooting for Chris Paul. I'm rooting for Chris Paul to get a title. I think it would be super cool for the Suns to go from bubble team that goes 8-0, doesn't make the playoffs to titles, to winning a title. I think that would be super cool, but I also think from a basketball perspective, they're better. That's everything you need to know about the 2021 NBA Finals. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like rating on it. Check out more videos from me, the box on screen as well. And if you want to see more content from me every single day, consider subscribing as well. As I said at the beginning, my name is Tucker. Hope you guys have an awesome rest of your Monday. We got the finals tomorrow night. I'll see y'all then. And yeah, I'll see y'all next time, fellas. Peace.